ESPN Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Of Gustav Holst.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 96.9 FM. You know my voice already. It's Leyvon Miller. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for letting me join you. It's Friday. Thank the Lord. It's Friday. We've made it to another one, right? I don't know what it is that you people do at 11 o'clock, but whatever it is that you do, I'm happy that you do, and that you decide to do your do with me. Of course, you know that it is the month of May. And as I have already stated, every Monday and Friday in this month, I am going to try as best as I can to recant, recall, remember the sacrifice that is the day that we now know to be the incident that is the HMBS Flamingo incident. Why? Because many of you have no clue that it even happened. Why? Because many of you have no idea what happened. Why? Because many of you have no idea who it happened to. Why? Because many of you have no knowledge of what were the goings on at the time of the incident and what were the subsequent incidents that either surrounded that incident or happened as a consequence of that incident. And so I'm going to do everything that I can, as often as I can, particularly around the month of May, whenever I'm allowed, to ensure that the life, the legacy, the sacrifice given by brave men is something that is never forgotten. And although yet to this day, many of them have not received a national honor of any kind, although yet to this day, many of them have not been memorialized in any way, these men continue to walk among us. They are still living, breathing mortals. And for whatever it is worth, hopefully the remembering of the incident allows us to remember their names. And when we see them in passing, we tip our hats to soldiers, men that gave it all in service to God and to country. I'm joined this morning on the line with Mr. Cladwell Farrington, the radio operator of the HMBS Flamingo at the time of the incident, the man that I think, if my information is correct, would have been below the deck during the time of the attack. And I'm inviting him this morning to recall his account of the incident that is now known to us all as the May 10th HMBS Flamingo incident. Good morning, Mr. Farrington. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Miller, and good morning, Bahamas.
So good to have you with us.
Well, I'm honored to be on with you, sir.
It's been 41 years. How does it feel like that amount of time has passed?
No.
Yeah. How old were you at the time of the incident?
21 years old.
21 years old. What was it? And if I'm not mistaken, you are now presently resident in Eleuthera, yes?
Yes, in the beautiful city of Hatchet Bay, the island of Eleuthera.
Oh, yeah, Hatchet Bay. There's a song about it, eh? Hatchet Bay, good old Hatchet Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you up to these days, Cladwell?
Well, doing the work of an evangelist,
Okay.
getting the word out there for the Lord and helping the churches out in the community and elderly,
Okay.
sick, shut-in, the young boys,
Okay.
a
So
little of everything.
you were originally from Hatchet Bay before joining the Defense Force, yes?
Yes, in fact, it was three of us on the boat from Hatchet Bay.
Okay,
Three family members.
Who were the three Hatchet Bay boys?
Maynard Miller, Denzel Clark, and myself.
Okay.
I call us the three Boo Boys.
And it is quite interesting now that you're saying it to me. I don't know if it was by design or otherwise, that there is quite a bit of Eleutherians that make up the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Very prominently in my mind, I think about people like Corn Beef, Brylan, and I'm trying to remember these people by their actual names. But if you know anything about the Defense Force, you kind of get a nickname and it rides at you until you die.
Right.
You never get rid of it, right?
Right.
But you joined the force. What was the day of your enlistment?
It was in 78, the latter part of 78.
That would have been
I think that's when they said it snowed in Freeport.
And you came from Hatchet Bay to join the force, or were you already in Nassau?
Well, I was in school.
Okay.
My friends, Gretchen Scovell and Lewine Johnson and Carol Brown, at the time, they saw the advertisement in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, why don't you go try that out? So I say, I ain't 18 yet, I say. But I was soon to be 18. And I always make that joke, I say. And I left to join the Defense Force. I was 18 years, 2 hours, and 15 minutes.
Yeah. So you get in as an 18-year-old boy in 78. Which entry is that?
That's the second entry.
Second entry. So you had about how?
I was the first person from Eleuthera to join the Defense Force.
Oh yeah, that's a big title. So you get in 78. The HMBS Flamingo incident doesn't happen until 80. So you are one of the more senior people on board.
Yes, sir.
About 18 months.
Yeah, about that.
All right. So
I look back and I look at Neely. He's the captain. He's the captain of Coral. He was the captain now of the force, and when he was there, he was the Marine seaman.
He was a Marine seaman on board that vessel.
That's a big achievement.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you recall before the day that you all set sail?
Well, it was a time we were sent to South Eleuthera.
Mm-hmm.
It was a by-election.
Okay.
I think Preston Aubrey died, and they had a by-election, and we was there to protect the place,
Mm-hmm.
just in case something break out. But fortunately, nothing happened,
Mm-hmm.
and we were right home. Would be some distance away. I think it was about 70 miles from where we lived in Hatchet Bay.
Okay.
And me and Dusty, we wanted to go home so bad. And there was I don't know if you know the Bee Gees. Their brother Andy Gibb was up there, and he couldn't get his boat fixed. So I say, Dusty, let's go try and make some money to get out. We could rent a car, or we could hike down to Hatchet Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And Dusty, in 10 minutes time, Dusty going on there to fix his generator for him.
Mm.
So I figured Dusty was going to charge the man some money. Dusty charged the man $50.
Mm-hmm.
I never been so upset in my life.
So you get ready to leave Eleuthera now, and you understand what would have been your rank at the time?
I was able seaman.
Able seaman.
That's the first rank on the force.
Right. So you're an able seaman, and you get back on board the ship. Of course, you're not a marine seaman, but you aren't very aware of the ship's patrol route. So all you know is that you're going south.
We didn't even know that.
Okay.
Because I wondered why, why we had to go on anyhow,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's your job, right? That's your job. But I just figured, was there something significant going on in that area? Was there drug boats or a bunch of fishing boats fishing illegally in the Bahamas or whatever? But I don't know why they say we got to go back out. I mean, we didn't even have time to go. They gave us 2 hours to go home to get some clothing and to visit family members. So I had with me Wallace, Trevor Sands, myself, and Austin Smith. So I dropped all of them off to go hail their family. Came back, picked them up. But when I go on for Smith wasn't available at the time. And I would keep blowing my horn, I was about to pull off. And then his sister came, she ran outside and said, "Oh, he's coming right now. And I keep regretting that. I said, if I knew that, I would have leave him there. Probably to being alive. And Smith and myself, we had a close relationship because both of us were operators.
Okay. Radio operators.
Yes, he would work one shift and I would work the other shift.
So if that is the case, then that means that you possibly either took over from him or handed over to him at some time within that window around the HMBS Flamingo incident.
Yes, you're right on point. I had the early shift, and well, in fact, we was in Ragged Island, and we done dress in our clothes because Mr. Rose said as we go to the shore.
All right, you got shore leave, Right.
Tucker had his bottle because he wanted to get some nice drinking water from the island, but because of the size of Flamingo, we couldn't go into the island because the boat was too big. So this guy came out in this boat to take us ashore. Out of the clear blue, the roll come, Laddie's York. We're not going ashore anymore. Let's go up this area, go see what's going on up that way. And when we get so far, we saw these images ahead of us. So we really couldn't make out what type of boats they were. And at this time, on Denzel Clark and a few other guys, I should say, they was going in the dory to like a boarding party. And in haste, Denzel, he slipped, and to prevent himself from going been caught up under the boat, his gun dropped overboard and couldn't retrieve it. But he hurt his hand in the process. But I waked that morning, that early shift, and we made their arrest. And Smith sent a message up to me, says, "It's my time to come down to relieve him."
Right. So you would be down below at the time, because if I'm not mistaken, the radio room in the Flamingo isn't at the top of the deck. It's actually underneath.
Underneath, right.
Right.
Well, they from what I heard Mr. Neely said, I didn't realize it until listening to Mr. Neely. I was one of the intended targets. The engine room, the engine to prevent the boat from moving, the radio room to stop you from making communication, and the bridge to make you unable to navigate.
Right. So when the actual missile attack happened, now it is believed that Coral Harbor got no communications from you all. I think someone also reported that they got communication from HMBS Flamingo that there was some unusual activity, but then communications went down. What exactly do you recall as the radio operator? What do you remember transmitting that day?
I made contact with them, and I told them, we made arrests of these 2 Cuban boats. We have them getting ready to put them in tow. And they later on that these planes flew over, but they said they left. And I said, we are trying to communicate with them, but we're not getting any reply from them. Then Curry came down the engine room. Down to the radio room because he's the technician,
Mm-hmm.
and he tried to tone the radio much clearer, and he left. So it was a period of time. It was like it was a break. Everything was going quiet.
Okay.
We didn't hear no boats, the planes going, and I was just there waiting on a reply
From Coral Harbor.
from Coral Harbor.
Mm-hmm. And you were communicating via, what was it, UHF, right?
Yeah, the VHF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was just spinning the chair.
Mm-hmm. What was the job of the radio operator, so that people are aware?
Well, the radio operator is one who do all the. He gives out your coordinates where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and you communicate frequently with the base. Tell them your whereabouts and the events what's going on and what took part. You give instructions to the base on all the things the captain will tell you to send out.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's confidential, you got to call for the CO.
Okay.
You don't just give it to anybody.
So you gave the communication that, listen, we had arrested 2 Cuban vessels. This is our location. They would call that a situation report. This is where we are. This is our fuel state. This is our water state. We have in tow 2 vessels. We are now making way. We're doing 10 knots, or well, maybe not 10 knots with 2 vessels in tow, but steering course X, Y, and Z en route to Ragged Island.
No, we didn't really move yet.
Okay.
We were just there.
Okay. So what exactly was the communication that you had gotten off the Coral Harbor? Do you remember that?
I just told them what happened. The first event.
Okay.
We arrested these boats, and we get ready to put them in tow.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, and in the meantime, there's some Cuban fighter planes flying overhead.
Mm.
But like Mr. Roll and all the former Marine police, they said that's nothing new to them.
Okay.
Because even sometimes we go down and Keysell banks and stuff, we see these big frigates will pull up on the side of us.
Mm-hmm.
But it was normal. We still in Bahamian waters, so they would just let us know that, hey, we here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this wasn't like nothing new to them.
When did it become unusual? Well, maybe not for you, because if you're in the radio room, you don't really see all of what's going on over
at
your
that time,
head.
I didn't know what was going on
Right.
outside.
It's kind of like being in a matrix. You're down there. Nobody really ever bothers the radio operator. He's really a little hermit crab. You very rarely see him. He comes up, gets his lunch, and kind of disappears back into a little hole.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if the sea is rough, you can't leave. You got to stay down there.
Right.
So I didn't know what was going on. They could have seen all the action, but I didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm. When did you realize that something was wrong?
When I got hit.
Hit by what?
Sea surface missile.
So the missile that actually made contact with the phone room, with the radio room, happened while you were inside there.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. Like I said, I was the intended target. I was one of the intended targets.
How come? Do you ever wonder why were you not struck?
God.
Hmm.
Because, like I always tell folks, when I give the testimony, I say, I would have never make it out there alive. I always say, I keep pinching myself up to this day to see if I haven't died and come back. Because, the sad thing about it, if I'd have died that day, I didn't have a testimony, or I couldn't guarantee that, hey, I might have go to heaven. But, when you're in that fear of dying and not sure you're going, what happened when you die? I was crying, I was scared, I was panicked, I was painful, I was confused, and I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Lord, I don't want to die. Too young to die. Young people don't die like this. I said, Lord, if you spare me, just spare me. And I guess all of us is crying out the same thing, because we know our life wasn't right with God.
Do you remember what it was like at the time of contact? Was it really loud? Was it really hot? Do you remember exactly the scenery in the radio room? Again, a very small confined space. beneath the deck, so not really aware that the planes had come back. You hear the boom. What is your first? When do you know that this is danger?
Everything was on me. Darkness, smoke, fire, big hole on the fuselage of the boat.
Mm.
Confusion, darkness. I mean, fire, smoke, darkness. Some of the guys came running down there. I said, "This is no place to be. Y'all go back up," and they run back up.
So they're trying to get below deck.
They're trying to get below because they thought down there was probably in a better shape than where they was.
And you're telling them negative. We need to get out of here.
Yeah, there's nothing down there.
Mm. Do you remember being able to see through the point of contact? Was there? I know Mr. Curry accounts that when he went into the aft of the vessel, there was a hole about 4 feet wide, that he could see straight through, and that every time the Flamingo would maneuver, gallons of water would come through the hole. Was the same to be said in the radio room?
Well, I could see the opening, but I couldn't all that details that I remember now. Like I said, it was pitch dark down there, and the radios was on fire. The radio was on top of me. I'm not talking about one radio. It was like a control room. You got like shelves and shelves of radios.
And amplifiers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so all that came tumbling down on top of you.
All that came tumbling down. And I was like a rotating chair, you know.
Mm. How did you get from beneath all of that stuff? Because you're talking about 1,000 pounds of equipment, probably.
You don't know what it is to be fearful.
I mean, I'm trying to help people understand the story. Many people have not heard the story.
I crossed from under that. Like I said, it had to be a divine intervention by God.
Yeah.
It was nothing. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's nothing we did.
Yeah.
We just took part of it, but we didn't do anything to prevent us from getting killed. I mean, it was just to be.
Yeah. So help me understand this. As the radio operator, you now realize obviously something is wrong. Whatever the ship had come into contact with was obviously strong enough to throw down the entire radio rack. So everything, according to you now, is on top of you and it is both on the ground. Mm-hmm. Your shipmates began to make the trek toward the radio room, which is interesting to me because the radio room is possibly 6 feet wide, if that big, right? So I don't really know where they were going. But you tell them, hey, listen, there's no need to come down here. We need to go up there. You get to the top, or you get outside of the radio room area now, and you realize what's happening. What is your state of mind?
Well, at that time, the boat was on fire, machine gun fire, and the jets were still going back and forth, hitting the boat continuously. Mm-hmm. And in panic, I mean, I just popped my boots off. I didn't even take them off. I just grabbed them by the laces. I know those boots is behind, right? I just popped from the bottom lace and I popped. I don't know where I got the energy from.
So if you're the radio operator on watch, that means you're fully regaled. You've got on your uniform. Everything. Unlike some of these guys that would have only been in coveralls, you have on complete uniform.
Uniform, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And as the able seaman, right, it would have meant that, you've possibly been a part of several maneuvers. You've done a couple man overboard drills during your time as training exercises, yeah?
Yes.
What is the thought going? Because unlike Neely and they, who would have only this been their second or maybe third trip, you as an able seaman would have had a bit of a time sailing. And so, you've done a couple of things, but the order is given to abandon ship. What is that reality like for you?
Well, to be honest with you, you didn't have to tell me abandon ship. It's already in the water.
You sound like me. I always tell
don't tell
people,
nobody that, though.
I always tell people, Gladwell, I am going to be the person that demonstrates what the abandoned ship drill ought to look like. Because by the time as they give me the order to abandon ship, I could be overboard. I always say that to people.
But let me just explain. Let me explain my life, my childhood days in Hatchet Bay. Mm-hmm. There was a gentleman, Mr. Frankie Durham. Mm-hmm. He gave me this long wooden boat, must be about 10 feet long, right? And I would scull that boat to a place called Rainbow Bay. It's like 3 miles away from our settlement. Or I would go from the seaside to the pond dock. And these high rocks in the back we call Solly Bight. Mm-hmm. And I would scull with just my alone, Mm-hmm. I was crazy or brave, or one of the two. And when I learned to swim, I tell the guys, hey, I say, I'm going to jump overboard. This is like we call it a boiling hole down by the pond dock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you jump overboard, you sneak away from your parents, you go in the sea, and you go naked. So we jump over. I said, now if you all see me start to sink, you all grab me up. And that's how I learned to swim. I learned to swim in the boiling hole.
Mm-hmm. And so you weren't fearful of being in the water during the incident?
I didn't even realize I was in the water. That's how fast I was going.
Because some of your shipmates, Mr. Curry is one of them. He accounts that, you know, for him getting in the water in itself was not necessarily something he was fond of, because he could swim, but you know he never pegged himself to be a big swimmer. So you know, getting in the water in itself, I guess, caused a bit of trauma in his mind. You didn't have that difficulty. You were a big time, and most of y'all Lucha boys could swim. You're a big time swimmer out of Lucha.
I swim. I knew from the moment I hit the water that the bullets was coming at us, you know, because they riddled the water with bullets. You could feel the heat, and when you dive down, you could see these bullets just, you know, riddling down in the water.
Do you remember how long the swim is from the platform?
That swim, I looked like that was about at least 200 yards.
So about 200 yards swim.
Uh-huh.
And you're talking about under active gunfire the entire time?
Yes, sir. It never stopped.
Are you one of the people that is picked up by the dory?
No, sir.
So you swam all the way to the captain
all
craft?
All the way in quick time. I must have made that 5 minutes. No joke.
Yeah, quick time. Okay.
But
so,
I was able to help some of the guys up.
How do you get aboard the captain craft then? Because I imagine the captain craft is about, give or take, 4.5, maybe 5 feet above the sea level, right?
Yeah, we had
the boarding party on board.
Two men at the boarding party on each boat.
Okay.
Luckily, they had their guns too.
But I mean, after that swim, like after having, again, if you consider the people like Mr. Curry and they that had been picked up by Captain Neely, you know, they had the dory, so they didn't do the entire swim. When you consider people like yourself that made the entire swim, you know, after swimming, you know, your arms just aren't what they ought to be, your legs just aren't what they ought to be. Getting on board the captain craft, do you struggle with that?
Yeah, you know, they had to help me up, and I was able to help some of the other guys up. Because at this time now, my shoulder felt like it was dislocated.
From the impact?
The radios, the impact from the radios.
Did you suffer any other medical damage?
Well, other than fear itself.
So you on board the captain craft now. How does it feel watching your shipmates during the period that they are now still in the water, or people like Captain Neely are still maneuvering out, then Marinci Manili, of course, maneuvering around in this story? What's going on in your mind?
Well, he was shouting to others to keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And we was telling Neely, see that one over there, you know, help that one this way. And reaching for a stick to push, to hand out to the other guys who, you know, we tried to assist them as best we could.
You realize that 4 of your shipmates are missing.
No, we wasn't aware of that yet.
No, but the Captain Amos' role is taken from the Flamingo. He's the last man, I'm advised.
Yeah, we saw a shadow jump overboard, and we didn't realize it was who it was until he came ashore. But Neely went and picked him up and brought him to us, and we realized it was him.
So now that the captain is here, we have the captain. The instructions are given to give a head count. You give the head count, and you realize that 4 men are missing. Now, you seem to be somebody that was very well composed during the swim. Do you ever recall seeing those 4 boys?
No, sir. But I tell you, I was way ahead of everybody. So.
And you
to
never...
be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna lie to you about this, right? That was a situation where I don't think no one could help each other. It was like a life, and you know, you was trying to swim. You're trying your best to stay afloat. And while you're trying to stay afloat, these jets coming by, and that's riddling the water with bullets. I talk machine gun fire now. So even if you had somebody with you, if that person couldn't hold up in time,
you got to let them go.
you had to let them go. They would be riddled with bullets anyhow.
Yeah. So you don't account for any of them in the water. Do you account any last memories of any of the 4 missing before the incident or even during the early parts of the incident?
I think the last time I saw them is when they was up on the deck of the boat trying to put on life jackets and stuff.
Mm.
And then by the time I was in the water, I hear them say, abandon ship, abandon ship.
So by the time his captain or commander role gets on board the captured craft, you are now on the captured craft. The crew is now on the captured craft. The head count is given. Flamingo is almost sunk, right? They ask for the head count. You realize that 4 people that you had just seen this morning, Austin Smith that you had just relieved this morning, is no longer here.
Not this morning. That was about an hour or 2.
So you had recently relieved him from his duties.
Right.
And do you ever think about what a difference the story may have been if the attack had happened and you weren't on watch at the radio room? Do you think maybe you would have traded places?
I guess so. I would like to speculate. I would like to say sometimes I just feel like I should have done more.
Mm. What is it like when you realize though that they are missing and that the instructions are now being given that, listen, we have got to get out of here. We cannot find these fellas. It's time for us to go. I mean, do you recall the emotion that's going through your mind?
We cried, and he was upset. We cried, he was upset.
Mm-hmm.
But the significant thing about this whole thing was that night was setting.
Mm.
I mean, earlier that the helicopter and the jets, they flew over, and the helicopters came back later that evening.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized we had their men, so they left. So I guess unbeknown to us, and I don't want to give you too much information now because I got my book coming out.
Okay.
Should be released. If I give you all the information, people won't want to buy the book.
No problem.
I just want to keep it real, though.
Uh-huh.
But I got to put this piece in there. We had a situation where the boat was just going around in circles.
This is the captured craft.
You're right. And we couldn't understand what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the clear blue, I say, guys, let's pray. Even in the panic and the fright we were in, we prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And miraculously, like the Holy Spirit came and told Dusty, check the steering wheel, and he realized the pin was in there.
Mm.
Dusty asked the gentleman, what happened to the steering? So he wouldn't say nothing. But like Dusty just going down below and just push his hand down the bilge. You may know the bilge, but I don't think other persons know the bilge. But the bilge is down where the water runs through from the engine into the ocean.
Right.
And he miraculously find a pin. And like I was telling my wife the other day, I say, you could imagine what would happen if that man had threw that pin in the ocean.
Yeah.
What he was doing, I think he had communicated with the Cuban MiG fighters and telling them, and they probably gave him the intentions that take the pin out, because we'll be coming back for yours. And they were hoping that by the time nightfall it'll be so dark, no one will know what happened to us, and they will just kill us off.
Clever Farrington is my guest this morning. He's calling me all the way from good old Hatchet Bay. Clever, we're going to a break. I hear my music in the background. Stay on the phone line. If you're listening, it's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I'm Leyvon Miller. We'll be right back after the break.
Meet Jackie. Jackie's a hard worker with a steady income, but she has a personal loan and multiple credit cards to pay off. To keep her account current, Jackie opted for a loan from Fidelity Bank to consolidate her debt into one monthly payment and earn interest on a built-in savings account. Be like Jackie. Call 356-7764 to book a complimentary financial coaching session. Fidelity also offers virtual assistance. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Preparing for a hurricane can make all the difference in safeguarding the lives of family, friends, and neighbors. By knowing what action you should take, you can reduce the effects of a hurricane disaster. Get all the facts of the potential of having insurance, impact-resistant windows, home emergency power, essential supplies, and a lot more before the storm. After the storm, where to purchase building or cleaning supplies, waste disposal, medical care, and more. The Nassau Guardian's Hurricane Guide will help you make sure everyone knows what to do in the event a hurricane approaches. Take advantage of this double insertion opportunity, plus 15 commercials on Star 106 hits. Contact us today at 302-2300. That's 302-2300, or your account executive. Will you be prepared?
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back. Leyvon Miller here. Cladwell Farrington joins me this morning. He is in Hatchet Bay, Eleuthera. He is now retired or resigned, able seaman Cladwell Farrington. And he is one of the surviving members of the HMBS Flamingo, the ill-fated Flamingo. We now know it to be May 10th, the day that is forever etched in the history of the Bahamas as one of the most traumatic days in our country's history. And as you know, I've been doing this series because I want to make sure that we never forget the sacrifice, the bravery of the men that were the crew members of that voyage. Mr. Cladwell Farrington, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. You can text me, 422-4796, and we'll take a couple of text messages. But Mr. Farrington, you're recalling that the pin was missing from the engines. I've actually never heard that part of the story. How long did it take you to discover that?
Well, we realized something was wrong because the boat just kept going around in circles.
Mm.
So because the steering pin was missing or the steering wheel, there was just the boat just going around and around. So.
Wow. So you begin to make way toward Ragged Island, right? What is the trip toward Ragged like?
Well, it was a long process because we didn't get it about 1 o'clock that morning.
Mm-hmm.
I think we left it like about 6:30 or so.
Okay. So you're talking about 9 hours of sailing almost.
Yeah, that's a slow boat, man, fishing boat. And plus, they had loaded down with fish and crew members.
Mm-hmm.
And the crew of the fishing boat also. Yeah, so they were hoping, they were stalling, hoping that they and we could see in the distance the big bright spotlights searching for us,
Mm-hmm.
But we just, as the roll gave orders to put the boat in complete darkness.
Darkened ship, yeah.
And we only used, Dusty used those Cuban cigarettes, to know they'd be strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he blow them red continuously to keep a red glare on the compass.
Mm-hmm. And you make it into Ragged Island. It's in the wee hours of the morning. Does it feel like the story will never end at this point? Does it feel like we are in Ragged Island, but nowhere near civilization because you all beached the craft, and now it's a foot journey toward, I guess, the settlement. What's going on now in your mind?
Yeah, we got there like about 1 o'clock that morning.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for us, though, we had two guys who were from there, Leo Kirby and John Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
They were from there, like, their boyhood days. They remember this short track of road.
Mm-hmm.
And that took us straight into the settlement.
You awake the island police officer. He's shaken to see you all. How do you feel when you see him? Do you feel any sense of hope?
Well, I mean, at that time, we was glad to be on land, and we were dead hungry. We haven't eaten all that day.
Mm-hmm.
Tired, painful, but he didn't have much to eat. Luckily, Kirby had an aunt. She came early that morning after the news got out,
mm-hmm.
and then the town folks came.
The Cubans visited you again later that day with passing aircraft traffic over the island of Ragged Island.
Yeah, at first they said that it's a transport. C-11 aircraft landed on the airport,
mm-hmm.
tarmac. And some of the men disembarked, but they didn't come into the settlement.
Mm.
And the helicopter came, and some of us went take shelter in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the poor guy was trying to preach and have church, and he couldn't even do that because the shot felt like it wouldn't land right in the church, pointing the guns right at the folks in the church.
Wow.
And then fear came on us when we see those MiG jets came back flying as low as they could. But at this time, we was able to get communication to Nassau through the Morse code.
Okay.
Because that's the only communication they had on the island.
You're talking about that.
I could have do it, but I forget it.
Uh-huh.
But there was a gentleman who was stationed in Ragged Island to do the trans. That's how his ways of communicating for the government, I guess. And I think the same gentleman who died, Mr. Miller, I think he's buried today. I think he was able to get the Morse code at the base and let them know that something has happened to the Flamingo and disabled men are there, and then they're being under attack by the Cubans.
So you're saying that Mr. Shaky Miller, the one that's being buried today,
Right.
yeah, he was the person that got the communication. You're saying back here in Nassau.
Right. I think he was the one who was able to understand the Morse code.
You see the commander of the Defense Force, then Commodore William Swinley, and Commissioner of Police Shalatiel
I think it was
Thompson.
Gerald Bartlett at the time.
Was it Gerald or was it Shalatiel?
I think it was Gerald Bartlett. I think.
Okay. You see the Commissioner of the Police, the Commander of the Defense Force, and the private pilot get off the plane to come and see the troops in Ragged Island. Well, what's happening as you see your commander?
That lifts our spirit.
Okay.
Because we figured, hey, we get, people can make decisions and we're going to get off the island. But you could imagine in a stressful situation like that, you could send the slowest plane in the world to come pick you up at DC-3.
So
It took 5 hours to get to Nassau.
the flight time is about 5 hours?
That's
how it feels.
That's
how it
feels.
Okay.
I think about 2.5 hours.
What is the what is the flight home like though? You had just undergone this entire traumatic scene on the open seas. You're in the aircraft now. Is anyone talking? Is anyone saying anything? We are certain that the four boys are not there. The reality of it is beginning to soak through. What's happening in your mind?
It was a somber mood, man. No one was saying anything, Even though we were sitting side by side, everybody was in disbelief. And it never hit us until we reached to the airport and we got into that bus. And that's when most of us break down. Because we see reality set in. Because we realize now we went over there on a ship. And here we are in a bus. It was 19 and now it's 15. And see all the reporters and Defense Force officers, policemen, and family members who heard about it was down,
Did you have family in Nassau?
Yeah, I think I had a few family members. And me and Commodore Scavella was living together at that time.
You're talking about the big right-hander?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so what was his position at the time? Is he enlisted as yet, or is he about to enlist?
No, he was still a Marine at that time.
Okay. Do you remember conversations afterwards with him?
You won't believe. I just asked him that the other day. He said that he didn't know. He didn't know about it. Not until I think the next day, later evening, he's going to work. And he went to the gas station. Remember, Fuggy gas station's being Oaksfield.
Okay.
Because we used to live Patega Road.
Okay.
Davis Street, rather.
Okay.
And he went to the gas station. The road had him say, the Flamingo got blown up. He said he was devastated, man.
Because you would have been his roommate.
Right. And he didn't know. Not only that, 3 of his own boys was on there.
Yeah.
And some of his squad mates and everything,
Okay.
And he's an action man.
Yeah.
Because if he could have flown there, he'd have come there and fight them off himself.
Okay. So you recall the incidents of the Flamingo to him, I imagine, because he's probably the closest person that you have or had there at that time, family-wise?
We didn't have time to talk about it, because every day the house is full of people.
Okay.
Folks come in there inquiring what happened, crying. Some people crying, and some, So you didn't have time to talk.
Did you at any point think to yourself, boy, Cladwell, I think I'm going to get me a job selling insurance because this military thing this is not what I signed up for? Did you think that any at all?
No, sir. But you wouldn't believe it. I mean, a lot of people don't really know the full story about this thing, That's what hurt me so much to see how we were treated.
Mm-hmm.
Because here it is now. That's why I call us the three Hebrew boys, Denzel, Maynard, and myself. Out of the 15 survivors, we was at the base, and they sent us on another boat 2 weeks later.
They send you all back out to sea?
2 weeks later, they tell us to take a boat round to the shipyard.
Mm-hmm.
And that boat caught a fire. So we had to jump overboard again.
Oh, my goodness.
Boat going around in circles. Roger Wall was the captain at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the boat engine was still running, but the boat was on fire, and the boat just kept going around in circles. As we had to try to swim from avoiding the boat running over. And the thick black smoke, a shark-infested water.
Wow.
So I say, Lord, not again.
So how much time did you do in service, Cladwell?
Almost 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. And all of this happened to you in 4 years?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you make the decision. To I guess get back to Nassau and carry on with your life. How long does it take you to kind of settle your nerves? Because you're now telling me 2 weeks later you're back out to sea. So that means there was no post-traumatic sessions. There were no I guess I don't even know what they call them now, welfare sessions that you go and you see the padre and he tells you about how there's a purpose for your life and you have to find that purpose and this is why you still are among the counted and you have to think on these things as you carry through with your tasks. There was none of that.
None of that, sir. One thing I could recall us getting from the whole incident was $75 from the stuff was in my locker.
Wow.
$75. The things I could remember what I had,
Mm-hmm.
but I lost on the Flamingo.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were paid for.
Yeah.
We didn't see any psychiatrist, no medical doctor,
Mm-hmm.
no x-rays, no counseling, no compensation. In fact, I wrote all the prime ministers, not Sir Lyndon, but Mr. Christie and Mr. Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Getting ready to write Mr. Minnis now and hoping that somebody, I say, even they pass a legislation to say, well, let's give the Flamingo survivors $20. I'm not taking anything from the Golden Girls or the athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they could run a race and get $50,000 or a piece of property,
Mm-hmm.
and what we going through, we even can get a rock. Give us a rock.
Mm.
Not even a piece of property.
Mrs. Kavala has memorialized the incident with the monument. I don't know how many times you've seen it. It's a splendid piece of architect. But I mean, do you feel as though there is still?
Yes, man. There's too much to be done. See, if you in the Army in the United States, mm-hmm. you train to fight war. You know you're going to go to war. You know you may be killed.
Mm-hmm.
You know that there's going to be warfare, and they give you the type of weaponry you need for these events, right?
Mm-hmm.
But us, all we had was one cannon,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of SLRs and SMGs and
Mm-hmm.
GBMG. Right?
Completely outgunned.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one tell us you're going to maybe kill or you're going to have warfare.
Or certainly not encounter this level of military.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas we overcome all of that, and on top of that, 2 weeks later, you could take then two men out, and they encounter a similar incident, only there was no fire, weaponry fire. And, I mean, you even can't give us $1 every month Some of us have medical issues going on right now. Mr. Sanders and Andres, he still have a bullet in his arm.
From the incident?
From the incident.
That would be Willard Sanders, is it?
Yes, sir.
Wilfred Sanders?
My good cousin, Dusty. Dusty struggled through life, trying to cope. No one even sit down to take Dusty in hand. I was able, Dancer Clark and myself, we try our best to try to encourage Dusty. We had a Remembrance Day service just for Dusty at the church, and we presented him with a plaque just to keep his spirit going. And Dusty, unknown to his family, Dusty still had that bloody shade what he wore that day at the Flamingo in his closet.
Never let it go.
Never let it go.
Wow. Gladwell, we're almost out of time. Are there any closing words that you'd like to kind of just leave with the people that are listening?
Well, I just want to tell folks, don't wait for the last minute to try to get to know the Lord. Try to get to seek Him while you get your health and your strength and your youthfulness. But just permit me to sing one voice of the song. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking of you. Lord, give me the strength to do every day that I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time.
I think that's a beautiful place to end. Gladwell, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Miller. And I just want to let the Bahamian people know that our book could be out hopefully by next month.
All right. Gladwell Farnding has been my guest all the way from Hatchet Bay, Luthra. One of the surviving members of the HMBS Flamingo. And he says that he watched as his shipmates struggle through life with the memory of the Flamingo. Dusty Miller, we remember him. I mean, a mechanic among mechanics. Gladwell recalls that Dusty still kept the clothes that he wore on the day of the Flamingo until the time of his death. No post-traumatic anything, he recalls. One day I imagine we will give these men heroes' rewards, for they are heroes that walk among us. The members of the ill-fated HMBS Flamingo. Anyway, it's Friday. I say it every Friday. Do everything in your power to ensure that you do not kill anybody. Greater than that, do even more in your power to ensure that nobody don't kill you. And if you do that, I'll see you here on Monday. I'm Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. The station for fresh news and smart talk. Don't move. They've got the news. It's next.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.